Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wasalam ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We're doing the Practical Tawheed series. And I know, tonight's going to be about talking about the issues of rububiyyah, or what they call Lordship. I'm a little unorthodox in the way that I teach. Meaning I rarely ever use terminologies when I'm teaching, because I think things get confusing sometimes when you use them. Sometimes you don't get down to the nitty gritty. Right now we're going to talk about the issue of those who say that La ilaha illallah means there's no Lord but Allah. Okay? And we're clear that from the understanding of Ahlul Sunnati wa Jama'ah, that the meaning of La ilaha illallah, none has the right to worship Allah, is La ma'buda bihaqqin illallah, that none has the right to worship in truth except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa salam wa barakatuh. And firstly, wa salam wa barakatuh. Firstly, to understand this issue, first, let's understand Lordship. Lordship, in a nutshell, linguistically, someone can be a lord of a land. A woman can be the lord of her house. A person can be a lord of anything. But when you're talking about the Lord, the absolute Lord, that only can be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, we have to understand it that when you're talking about Lordship, you're talking about divine acts. You're talking about, when we say creating and providing and arranging the creation affairs, we're talking about naturally divine acts. And really, you can explain Lordship by a simple phrase: to single out Allah and His unique divine acts. That Allah is unique and divine. His actions are unique and divine. They're unique and they're divine. And both those things mean the same thing, but sometimes you can, say two words that mean the same thing to give more emphasis to what you're trying to say. So, rububiyyah, in a sense, is the reason why Allah has the right to be worshipped. The fact that Allah is the Lord, and the fact that He has these divine attributes, these divine characteristics, and the fact that He's unique in those acts, that no one else can do it like Him. For an example, you have people who can destroy a mountain, right? People can bomb a mountain with all types of bombs. They still may not destroy it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can destroy it and turn it to powder. When the Lord lifted the mountain over the head of the Bani Israel, lifted the mountain over their heads, did Allah have to use a crane or something like that? Or how does creation have to exert energy and we have to use these same actions that we may have the same name as Allah in, but we don't have the same how? We have some of the same characteristics by name, but we don't have the same characteristics of the how. Okay? Because Allah's actions are divine and unique. I mean, even if you share in the same name, it's still not unique. Your actions are limited. They're not unique. Your abilities are limited. They're not unique. There's always somebody that can outdo you. There's always somebody that can outrun you. There's always somebody who can outtalk you. There's always somebody who can outsee you, outhear you. Okay? But Allah, no one can do that. Allah is unique, and Allah's attributes are divine, and no one else can do exactly what He can do. This is the meaning, in a nutshell, of rububiyyah. And there are people that make shirk in rububiyyah. Okay? Most mushrikeen make shirk in rububiyyah in some form or another. We had the Indians, the Native Americans. They did rain dances to make it rain. That's an attribute of Lordship. That's shirk in Allah's Lordship. You can believe somebody can answer your dua. Answering a dua, answering a supplication is an act of a Lord. If you believe somebody else is going to answer that dua, you're making shirk in Allah's rububiyyah. You're making shirk in Allah's lordship. Okay? Because you're saying somebody else's response or somebody else's act towards you can be unique and divine. And this is the usul foundation of shirk. Because when you believe something is divine, you worship it. You worship it. Because once you believe it's divine, that brings along fear. Then it brings along hope. Then it brings along love. That's all connected to worship. Because once you fear something because it's divine, you fear it because you know you can't escape. But you start doing acts of obedience towards it, hoping that it doesn't punish you, and you love for it to reward you. So you can't get around these ingredients of worship being connected to all aspects of Tawheed. So Sheikh Ahmed Milibar, rahimahullah, one of the a'lama, the signposts of Aqidah in his time, and he's from India, from the place called Milibar. He said, وذلك قولهم إن معنى كلمة لا رب إلا الله فإذا اعتقد إنسان أن الله وحده هو خالق مدبر أمور القادر على كل شيء أصبح مؤمنا. They say, no, not like that, alaykum salam wa barakatuh, because not unless you believe that wish itself, like making a wish, that there's some mystical thing that's going to happen that's going to make your wish come true. If that's people's belief, then they're making shirk. If they're doing it out of culture and it has nothing to do with the unseen, it's not connected to a religion, it's not connected to it being a god in some way, then it's just culture. And it's just, now we're talking about something that's being haram or falling into being an innovation. You know, when you talk about major shirk, there has to be something there to make it worship in the first place, so it can fall into being shirk. But if they're blowing the candle while believing now the wish is going to come true, because blowing on a candle is now going to make something unseen happen to bring about that wish, now they're messing around with making somebody's acts or somebody's divinity unique, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's where that falls into. So he says, so they believe that long as you believe that Allah is the Lord, basically, they're saying if a human being accepts the fact that there's only one Lord, then he's a mu'min. He's a believer. This is not true. For example, فَإِذَا دَعَ غَيْرَ اللَّهِ مَثَلًا يَا مُحْيِ الدِّينِ أَغَثَنِي أَوْ نَذْرَ لَهُ أَوْ توجه إلى قبره وطاف به لا يضر بزعمهم ما دام يعتقد أن الله وحده هو الرب. Now listen to this. They say, for example, as long as you accept Allah as the Lord, you say, oh, is there one Lord? Nah, there's one Lord. There's one creator. There's one sustainer. There's one arranger of affairs. If you accept that, as far as the people who say that La ilaha illallah means there's no Lord but Allah, you're a Muslim. But we're going to prove them wrong. For example, if somebody calls him other than Allah, like for example, somebody says, oh, Muhyiddin. Muhyiddin was is a dead righteous man who the Sufis and some of the other people will worship him to get good luck from him and all this type of stuff like that. If they say, oh, Muhyiddin, save me, right? If they say that, how is he going to save him? The question right there, if you want to prove shirk, the first question that should come to your mind as a Muslim, how's Muhyiddin going to hear you and answer you? You got to be giving him unique divine qualities. Shirk and rububiyyah, right there. You made shirk in what they call worship because you gave an act that Allah made for himself. What is the act that Allah made for himself? The act that Allah made for himself is supplication. Allah legislate only to be for him. Then you went into the rububiyyah part, into the lordship part, by now believing that this person is going to respond to you. That's lordship. And that takes uniqueness and divine qualities to respond to a call like that, in that way, in the unseen. It takes uniqueness to do that. And now you're saying Muhyiddin has that uniqueness. I hope everybody's following me. Okay? I hope you are. Or they vow to this person. Or they go to their grave and make tawaf around, make circles around the grave, walk around the grave. Okay? believing this is pleasing the person inside. Believe that is pleasing the person inside. He said, but they might not believe that this person can harm or benefit them. They may not believe that they're doing that, but they are doing that. They are doing that. They have to believe, because the fact that you have to go there to his grave and you have to do all these actions towards his grave, if you don't do it, they believe that they're not going to get closer to Allah. That's a harm. They do believe that he has some connection to their harm and benefit, because they believe that he's going to go to Allah for them. You know, like Santa Claus, like a letter going to the North Pole, and Santa Claus is going to read your letter now, and then he's going to be able to bring you what you want. This is how they think about Allah. SubhanAllah. And he says, as long as a person accepts that there is no Lord but Allah, they can make all the shirk they want. So how would the Christians be different? Christians believe Allah is the Lord. They believe that Allah created everything. They believe that Allah is above in the sky. They believe all these attributes of Lordship for Allah. But they still commit shirk. They still believe he has a son. So just because they accept the fact that there's only one Lord and one creator doesn't make them Muslim. You look at the books of Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah, and the Quran al-Arba, that's the first principle in the book. That those pagan Arabs during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not become Muslim, even though they accepted Allah's Lordship in a lot of areas. They believed that Allah was the creator. They believed that Allah created their gods. They believed that Allah made it rain, but it did not enter them into Islam. You know why? Because the issue of worship, who's unique and who's divine, they transgressed that particular issue. And the messengers came to correct that. They came to correct and show mankind who is unique and divine alone. And whoever's unique and divine alone deserves worship alone. The whole point of Lordship, that part of Tawheed the scholars have brought out, what you should get from that is Allah's uniqueness. And from that uniqueness, that worship comes along with that. Because if he's unique, then his uniqueness causes worship only to be for him. And if something is not unique, it doesn't deserve to be worshipped. So we know this is a mistake in the meaning of La ilaha illallah, saying there is no Lord but Allah. He said, فَلَوْ كَانَ هَذَا مَعْنَى كَلِمَةُ لِكَانُوا أَسْرَعَ النَّاسِ إِلَى قُبُولِهِ وَبِيَانَ هَذَا فِي القرآن في آيات الكثيرة ونقتفي بذكر واحدة منها هي قوله تعالى في سورة المؤمنين. And he says that if the meaning of this statement of La ilaha illallah was that there is no Lord but Allah, that Allah is the Lord, the creator and provider, that was the meaning of La ilaha illallah, then the mushrikeen, the disbelievers, would rush to accepting that. Because they already believed that. What was it that they stood up against? They stood up when he said what? أَجَعَلَ آلِهَةً إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ وَهَذَا شَيْءٌ عُجَابٌ. Have you made all the gods into one God? This is a strange thing. They only fought him when he told them their gods didn't deserve to be worshipped. That's when they fought him. So if he'd came and said there's no Lord but Allah, they would have followed the Prophet ﷺ, because they already believed that. The issue was in who was unique and who wasn't. Who deserved to be, who was unique and who wasn't unique. So, the proof, Surah Al-Mu'mineen, where Allah SWT says, قُلْ مَنْ بِيَادِهِ مَلَكُوتُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. He says, say to them, whose in whose hand is all the dominion of the heavens and the earth, the universe. Huwa yujiru la yujaru alayh. He is the one that compels and he's never compelled. In kuntum ta'lamun. If you do know. Right? Listen what the kuffar are going to say. So yakuluna lillah. This shows that they understood who was a Lord. Because he asked them, who is it that has dominion over everything? Who is it that compels and is not compelled? If you do know. Because not being forced to do something is from Lordship. Okay? Controlling the universe is from Lordship. When he asked the pagan Arabs this, they said, this is for Allah. If you ask your grandmother these same questions, she's going to say God, baby. She's not going to say Jesus. She's going to say the Lord. Now, when it comes into God being three parts and him coming down as a man and things like that, that's when it gets tricky. That's where the uniqueness gets transgressed. That's when they start messing around with the uniqueness of Allah and giving it to other than Allah. That's where it comes in at. And then he says, so yakuluna lillah Kul فَأَنَّا تُسْحَرُونَ. He said, and say to them, are you then what? Led astray? Are you bewildered? Are you bewitched? Basically asking the question, if Allah is the controller of the heavens and the earth, as you're saying, if he's the one that's not compelled or forced, then why are you worshiping other than him? Here's the question. فإذا قيل إذا كانوا يعتقدون وحدانية الرب فكيف عبدوا غير الله. If it was that they accepted that Allah was the Lord, the provider, the sustainer, the creator, the one above the throne, how is it they was worshiping other than him? Sheikh Ahmed Milibari rahimahullah, he says, فَالْجَوَابِ عَبَدُوا غَيْرَ اللَّهِ ابْتِغَاءَ رِضْوَانِ اللَّهِ بِزَعْمِهِمْ. Because they saying worshiping these false deities, Allah was pleased with it. What? Who doesn't say that today? Christians do the same thing. Christians believe what? That Allah is pleased with the fact you're worshiping Christ. That's a go-between between Allah and you. The same thing with them. Most pagan religions, they do this. They believe in an alpha god, and then they believe in demigods. And they believe that the demigods, the alpha god, gave them particular duties in the universe and gave them the abilities, some of his divinity, to carry out these duties, these divine duties, these divine acts, to help him in the universe. This is what they believe. This is what most pagan religions believe, if not all of them. Okay? So the issue is that they felt as though Allah was pleased with it. That these gods they were worshiping were go-betweens between them and Allah. Allah made these things vehicles to him. Just like getting in a car and riding downtown. Just like getting on the L train, shooting downtown. Just like getting on the bus, going somewhere. They thought those gods, Allah made them vehicles to get closer to him. Just like using Allah's names and attributes. Just like doing a good deed. And asking Allah through that good deed. Just like asking somebody who's alive and righteous, you believe to be righteous, to ask Allah for you. They believe that they were part of the chain of reaction. That Allah made them gods and those false gods just like those other means of getting to him. That's how they were tricked. That's how they were tricked into worshiping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they believe Allah made shirk a vehicle to him. Wa'udhu billah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what's the proof? Surah Zumar. هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَاعُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. So excuse me, Surah to Yunus. They said, these are intercessions with Allah. They believe that Allah was okay with it. The same thing in Christianity with the Pope and all that. They believe that Allah put divinity in the Pope. So now he can forgive you. If you kiss his hand, his barakah. He rub you, you blessed. They believe that Allah is working through him. Same thing. The Jews, the priests and the rabbis, the same thing. They believe they are Allah's replacements. They work for Allah in the universe. This is clear shirk. This is what shirk is. Don't believe everybody telling you what shirk is. Shirk is democracy, and shirk is this, and shirk is that. No, let's get to the asl of what shirk is. Exactly what it is. So he says, مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا يُكَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. And they said, we only worship them that they may bring us nearer to Allah. That's the only reason they would call upon these guys, because they thought they brought them nearer to Allah. فَزَعَمُوا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْبُدُونَ غَيْرَ اللَّهِ إِعْرَاضِ عَنِ اللَّهِ. Because they assumed and they believed that they were not worshiping other than Allah, disbelieving in Allah. They thought worshiping those gods was believing in Allah. That's how they were tricked. Again, بَلْ يَعْبُدُونَهُمْ لِلْإِقْبَالِ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَإِنْ هَؤُلَاءِ مَعْبُودِينَ شُفَاعُهُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بِزَعْمِهِمْ. Because they believed that Allah was pleased with it and that it was an act of worship for Allah. That was what they were doing. They were really worshiping Allah through their particular gods. He says, so you'll find people, فَإِنْ أَصْحَابُ هَذَا الرَّأْيِ من قومنا لا يرون بأسا في دعاء أولياء الله وأموات فقد وجدناهم يقولون لا ندعو أولياء على اعتقاد أنهم قادرون على استجابة دعائنا وعلى قضاء حاجتنا كشف قرباتنا إنما ندعوهم على اعتقاد أنهم يشفعون لنا عند الله ترتب على هذا كثير من أبواب الشرك فزعموا أنها لا تنقض التوحيد. Listen to this. He says that many of the people today, and this was back when this book was written. This book was written during the time of in India when the British were ruling India, and the Indians were now revolting against the British. So this book was written during that time. That's how old this book is. So he says, so the people of today in our country, they don't see any problem with calling upon the righteous people or the dead. He said, we find them saying that we're not making dua to the friends of Allah because we believe that they're able to answer us. Listen to what they're saying. Or they can answer our dua. Or help us out of a situation. Or remove some calamity from us. But we're calling upon them believing that they have the ability now to go talk to Allah for us. So now he may not can answer my dua, right? He may can't do this. But they do believe that he answers the dua because he had to hear them in the first place. That's where the rububiyyah comes in. See this? They had to believe that he heard them. How can somebody who's been in the grave 300 years or 50 years or a year, dead in the grave, heard your call from his grave, and now he has the ability to go to Allah now and say, hey, Allah, a friend of mine just called upon you. So could you look out for him? Now it's obligatory upon Allah to say, well, just because they say the person is special to Allah, so now Allah is saying, I got to look out for your man because so-and-so spoke for you. That's basically what they believe, y'all. I'm sorry that I talk to people real so they can understand what I'm trying to say. That's the reality of these people's belief. This is shirk. We have to get back to what is shirk. Shirk done got lost. The meaning of shirk done got lost to us. It got lost. And he said, and this opens the door for a lot of shirk to happen. A lot. He says, so we understand that there's three meanings that the Muslims have when they're dealing with Tawheed. The first meaning, La ma'buda bihaq illallah, that none has the right to worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? None has the right to worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. That's the real meaning. That's the meaning known to Ahl Sunnati wa Jama'ah. Right? That there's no one unique or divine other than Allah. And it's negated, that uniqueness and that divinity is negated from other than Allah. Negated. And that only Allah has that uniqueness and that divine qualities, making him deserving of your worship. Plain and simple. Allah's uniqueness makes him deserving of worship. The second one, La muta'a bihaqq illallah. We went over that. Those who say that La ilaha means no one is obeyed but Allah. This is falsehood. We went over that in the last class. Go back to the class, I think it was called Tawheed and obedience. That not every obedience is worship. Not every time you obey your desires is worship. Not every time you obey somebody in haram is worship. It's not worship all the time. Obedience is worship when it's worship. Obedience can be sin when it's sin. Obedience can be good when it's good. It doesn't always in the same category. It depends on the belief when the act is done. So, in the last one, La Rabba illallah, and the last meaning is those who say there's no Lord but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So, and we're gonna say two more things. I'm trying not to make them too long, but this is important. What are some of the fawaid that we learned? Sheikh Ahmed bin Libar, he brings a fawaid, a fa'idah. He says, أولها بعث الله نوحا عليه السلام إلى قوم كانوا يعبدون ودا وسواعا ويعوق ويغوث ونصرا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he sent Nuh alayhi salam, Noah, to a people who were worshipping Wad, wa Sawa', wa Ya'uq, wa Yaghuth, wa Nasra. These were 5 righteous men who died during the time before Nuh was born, and his people ended up worshipping them. Okay? Ended up worshipping them at some point. This was shirk was first introduced, or paganism was first introduced to the human being. Because the human being in our nature, we're monotheistic in our nature. Shirk is an introduction. It's an innovation in human nature. It was something that was introduced to us. Okay? هؤلاء رجال الصالحون ماتوا قبل نوح. He said, these people died, these righteous people died before Noah was born. فدعهم نوح إلى قول لا إله إلا الله وقال لا تعبدوا إلا الله فهل معناه أطيعوا أوامر الله وحده ولا تطيعوا أوامر ود والسواع. The Sheikh is making a point here. He said, no, called them to none has the right to worship Allah. That Allah is unique. That Allah is divine, deserving of worship. And he said, do not worship other than Allah. So when he said that, did that mean that obey the commands of Allah and don't obey the commands of the idols they were worshiping? You see how they get mixed up about obedience? Because now you got to say that if you say that la ilaha illallah means that no one's obeyed but Allah, you saying that the messengers came and their da'wah to their people was, don't obey the idols you're worshiping, obey Allah. That wasn't what the da'wah. The da'wah was, stop praying and stop slaughtering and stop believing that those deities have any uniqueness or divinity. They don't deserve to be worshipped. Because the idols or the false gods wasn't given any commands. So it couldn't have meant, la ilaha illallah could not mean at all that only Allah has the right to be obeyed. Because I can obey my person at the job. We obey the messenger of Allah. We obey the authorities in the country. We obey our husbands. Right? The women obey their husbands. So now you saying that that obedience is now they're worshiping their husbands because they obeyed them. Even if they obey them in a sin, that don't mean they're worshiping him. Because Adam alayhi salam, did he not obey Iblis in disobedience of Allah? And if obedience to obey someone in a sin constitute shirk every single time, then Adam alayhi salam would have left Islam. He had knowledge. Allah just created him. He was in Jannah. He was a prophet. And he still obeyed Iblis and something that was in disobedience to Allah. So obedience cannot, that's not what the messengers came to say. Don't obey so and so, obey Allah. Another proof, he said, wa'bud Allah wa'ati'un. The messenger said, worship Allah and obey me. So how can obedience be worship all the time when the ayah separated the word worship and obedience? Worship Allah and obey that messenger that's coming to you. Okay? So obedience is not worship all the time. Then he says, ثُمَّ بَعَثَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ إِلَّا قَوْمٍ كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَ أَصْنَامٍ وَكَوَاكِبٍ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he sent Ibrahim alayhi salam, Abraham, to a people that was worshiping idols in the stars. These people that was good at astrology. They worshiped the astrology signs and the stars and the moon and stuff like that. Cancer and Libra and all those different things. Gemini. They was into all of that. Reading the stars. فَدَعْهُمْ إِلَى قَوْلٍ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And he called them to none is unique and divine but Allah. And he negated it from other than Allah. So you're saying that when he said that, that was meaning obey Allah and don't obey the sun and the moon and the stars? That's what it meant? No, that's not what it meant. You say somebody's obeying his desires. He's worshiping his desires. Somebody's obeying this. He's worshiping money. It's a difference between being a slave. Some of the stuff when they explain the ayat about the slave, the worship of the kameez, of the shirt, the worship of the money, meaning riq, meaning that he was a slave to it. Somebody can be a slave to something and not be a worshiper of it. A worshiper is always a slave, but a slave to something is not always a worshiper of it. Someone can really love money and do anything to get it. That doesn't mean he's praying to it and slaughtering to it and believe that it has some harm and benefit to him. It's divine in some way. That it's a God. Somebody can really just be a slave to something. He's willing to do anything for it. So we have to get to these issues and understand them, so we don't fall into making takfir, removing somebody from Islam. You got to be very careful with these things. Then he sent the Prophet alayhi salatu salam to a people that were worshipping Lat, Uzza, wa Manat, wa Habl. Some of them was worshipping Ibrahim and Ismail. But the Prophet salam called them to la ilaha illallah. And what they said when he said that, he says, Qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihun. He said, say la ilaha illallah and you'll be successful. What did they say to him? Ajala aliyatan aliha ilahan wahid. Have you going to make all the gods into one? Why didn't they say, oh, you're going to make us only obey one? You're going to make us only obey one? We got all these ones we obeying. You're going to make us obey one? No, that's not what they mean. They understood what the meaning meant. It meant it was negating uniqueness and divinity from what they was worshiping. They knew exactly. That's why they said, oh, you're going to make all the gods into one? Now you're going to make only one unique? You're going to make only one divine? That's what the issue came in at. So inshallah ta'ala, we're going to stop there and not make it too long. I hope my explanation was clear enough. I tried to, give you, what the Sheikh was saying and his intent and what he was saying in his speech. I hope, I was able to benefit the people tonight. And so we got to be careful. The reality is that so when you fall into worshiping other than Allah, that thing that you are worshiping becomes a Tawheed. It's from Shaitan. Anything that Shaitan calls to be worshipped other than Allah is a Tawheed. From the Pope, the priests, the rabbis, all those who they believe is divine. People worship the sun, the stars, the trees, and things like that. Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, will not be a Tawheed himself because he's not pleased with being worshipped. But the pictures and the cross and things like that they're worshiping, these are the Tawheed of these people. And the false deities that they are worshiping are their Tawheed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us free from worshiping of the Tawheed and establish upon Iman and Taqwa. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.